There's a leather saddle in a barn in northern Georgia that was made in 1937. The man who made it has been dead for 50 years. The horse it was made for is long gone. But the saddle is still supple, still functional, still ready to be strapped to a horse's back and ridden. Leather that's cared for properly outlasts almost everything else people own. Leather that's neglected turns brittle, cracks, and fails in a decade or two. The difference is entirely in the maintenance. A few dollars a year in oil and conditioning, applied consistently, extends the life of any leather good by generations. Here's the mountain method for making any piece of leather last 50 years, what actually goes on the leather, and the specific mistakes that ruin it. Start with what leather actually is. Leather is animal hide that's been treated, tanned, to prevent it from decomposing. The tanning process converts the raw skin's proteins into a stable, flexible, durable material that can hold up to years of use. But leather is still an organic material. It contains natural oils, and it needs those oils to stay flexible. When leather dries out, the fibers become brittle. Brittle leather cracks. Cracked leather fails. The mountain families understood this at a practical level. They kept their saddles, harnesses, boots, and belts working for decades by doing one thing consistently. They oiled them. Regularly, thoroughly, and with attention to the details. The main oils used were neatsfoot oil and mink oil, though various other treatments, beeswax, tallow-based conditioners, castor oil and some traditions, were also used. Neatsfoot oil is made from the shin bones and feet of cattle. It's been used for leather care for centuries, produces excellent results on most types of leather, and is still readily available today. It penetrates deep into the leather, restoring lost oils and keeping the fibers flexible. Mink oil is rendered from the fatty tissue of mink. It's water-resistant, protective, and tends to darken leather slightly. It's excellent for work boots, saddles, and any leather that gets wet or works hard. Beeswax-based leather conditioners, pastes of beeswax mixed with oils, form a protective layer on the surface of the leather and add water resistance. They're often used as a final coat over an oil treatment. The application method matters. Mountain leather workers didn't just slather oil on and hope for the best. The process was specific and slow. First, the leather was cleaned. Any dirt, dust, mud, or old surface oil was gently removed. Saddle soap, a mild soap specifically formulated for leather, worked into the leather with a damp sponge, then wiped off. This step matters because oiling dirty leather traps the dirt in the material, where it does long-term damage. Second, the leather was allowed to dry. Not baked dry in the sun, which cracks it, but air-dried at room temperature until it was slightly damp but not wet. Third, the oil went on. A small amount at a time, worked in with a soft cloth or the bare hand, applied evenly across the whole surface. Too much oil at once can oversaturate leather and make it soft and floppy. The goal is a light, even application that the leather absorbs completely. Fourth, the leather was allowed to rest for a day or two, letting the oil penetrate. Then the process was repeated if needed. Leather that's very dry might need 2 or 3 applications spaced out over a week. Fifth, if the leather was going to see wet or hard use, a final coat of beeswax paste added surface protection. If this is the kind of mountain knowledge you want more of, our free Appalachian Almanac goes out every Sunday. One real method, sourced and tested, in your inbox. Links in the description. Now, the maintenance schedule and the mistakes to avoid. Regular leather items, boots, belts, everyday saddles, were oiled at least twice a year. Once in spring, once in fall. A hard-working saddle or a pair of boots that got wet often might be oiled every month or 2 during heavy use. The old-timers had a simple test for whether leather needed oiling. Bend a small section and look at the surface. If tiny cracks appeared in the finish, the leather was dry and needed oil. If the surface flexed smoothly with no cracking, it was fine. Now the mistakes that ruin leather. The biggest mistake is using the wrong products. Modern shoe polishes and finishes are often not real leather conditioners. They add shine but don't penetrate the leather or replace lost oils. Use products actually formulated for leather care, not general-purpose shoe products. The second big mistake is drying leather too fast. Leather that gets wet, from rain, snow, or immersion, must dry slowly. Never dry leather in front of a fire or in direct sun. The rapid drying pulls oils out of the material and cracks the surface. Stuff wet boots with newspaper or crumpled cloth and let them dry at room temperature over a day or two. Then oil them once they're dry. The third mistake is storage. Leather stored in damp conditions grows mold. Leather stored in extreme dry heat cracks. Leather stored under weight, folded, compressed, or with heavy things on top, deforms permanently. Store leather items in a cool, dry, well-ventilated space, hanging or laid flat, without heavy objects on them. The fourth mistake is neglect. Leather that never gets oiled slowly dries out over years. By the time the cracks are visible, some damage is permanent. Regular light maintenance prevents this. Waiting until something looks bad often means you've already lost some of the leather's life. The fifth mistake is overoiling. Too much oil in a single application, or too frequent oiling, saturates the leather and makes it soft, floppy, and prone to stretching. Less is more. Light applications spread out over time. For modern leather goods, the same principles apply. Good boots deserve twice yearly conditioning and daily brushing to remove dust. Wet boots get dried slowly and then re-oiled. Between wearings, boots should have shoe trees to hold their shape and absorb moisture. Leather belts, wallets, and everyday carry items benefit from occasional conditioning, once or twice a year for items that see daily use. Leather bags, purses, and briefcases should be conditioned annually if they see regular use, and stored with something inside to hold their shape. Leather furniture, sofas, chairs, benefits from professional conditioning every year or two, plus daily dusting. The deeper lesson is one this series keeps returning to. The Mountain family's relationship with their leather goods was different from ours. A saddle wasn't a purchase. It was an investment expected to last a working lifetime, provided you took care of it. A pair of boots was expected to be resoled, re-oiled, patched, and made to last for years. Every leather item deserved and got the care that kept it working. Modern consumer culture has largely gone the other way. Cheap leather goods, disposable when they fail, replaced rather than repaired. But well-made leather is still available, still deserves care, and still lasts generations when properly maintained. The Mountain method, clean it, oil it, protect it, store it right, still works. A pair of boots you take care of will outlast 3 pairs you don't. A jar of Neat's food oil. A clean soft cloth. A saddle from 1937 still supple and working. The Appalachian way of caring for the things you own, and the small habits that turn everyday leather into heirlooms. The chemistry of leather tanning and conditioning, the historical references on Appalachian leather care, and product recommendations from working saddle makers are all linked in the description. If you want all of these methods in one place, the Appalachian Way Field Guide has 47 of them with the original sources behind each one. Link below. Real methods, real sources, real history. That's the Appalachian Way. We'll see you Wednesday.